Hi everyone, welcome back. Good to see all of you. All right, we've got 82 people, so let's get started for today's session. So welcome to the last session of project management. I think you guys are probably sick of seeing me already. So we'll get it done and over with by introducing the last model we will discuss about in this episode, okay? Of course, hello everyone. Hi, oh, I love you too. Hello, Dan. Win, I think. Hello. Okay, so let's get started. Today we'll talk about the last model of the project management series that we were going to be having, sorry. Basically, the idea is the project management is very simple. Whatever you do in your life, it has to be um, giving you the best return on investment. It should be giving you the best results that you are expected, because everything in life, it has limited resources. We have limited amount of time, limited amount of willpower, manpower, and money. Because of that, in order for a project to be successful, we need to have a certain ways that can make us differentiate from other people. Some people will do the same exact thing for much longer time, much more money, much more effort. And what differentiates between a efficient person, efficient professional, and an unprofessional person is the fact that one person can manage to solve the problem, to get the result much faster, easier, and at lower cost. And people have been researching, if we are different like that, how do we make sure that our projects and all of the things we set out to do end up being finished? The first thing is being finished. And then they will think about, how does it get finished in an excellent way, in a spectacular way? Less money, less effort, less time. So these project management issues became kind of like a mindset. Hello, Dan. Hi. So project management became kind of a mindset that we have to kind of become a little bit more rigid, a little bit more methodical, a little bit more systematic. And we will have to change the way our brains work. Our brains normally acts kind of like an animal brain. We see something and we try to resolve it. We are creative with it. We try to think of how to accomplish our ways in a very subconscious way. So what's your idea? Let's do it. But in project management, you cannot do that. In project management, there is a specific space, there's specific time, specific phase for every single thing. Basically, it takes out the creativity in the way to carry it out, but it gives you the creativity of how to resolve it. So you have to be rigid in, if you follow the waterfall, you follow a certain mentality. You go from the top to down. You start with all your planning. Everything has to be crystal clear, and you don't do anything until you have gotten all of your details together. You have received all the information you need, all of your questions answered. After you have that, after initiation, you will do planning. You are not supposed to do anything. You just sit there and think and type a lot and write a lot. You have to plan. If you're building a bridge, you have to design the bridge. You have to think about the timeline. You have to write out all the technical documents. You have to do all of these things. And you're not allowed to act. And it's extremely frustrating, but it's very necessary. For those of you who have been working in, international organization, construction business, real estate business, you probably will be more accustomed to this. For people working in different fields, it's going to feel a little bit more imprisoning. We feel like we cannot do anything, but we have to plan. And then finally, you can do execution. That's when you can finally do an act after you planned and after you initiate it. After that, monitor throughout the whole process and finish it. The problem with waterfall is because everything has to be crystal clear from the beginning. So which means that if your project team is inexperienced, if your project team has something they're not sure of, if the project team made a mistake in the beginning phase, then the ending might be disastrous. It might be a disaster. It might look nothing like what was expected. So that is something that gives a risk to the project. The second thing is for waterfall, because a project cannot go down, move forward until a task is finished before it. Which means that if you are not a good project manager and your previous part is not finished, then the later part will be stuck there forever. We can see that in a lot of projects in Vietnam, construction projects, where people build a house, a really tall building, or a bridge or a road for many, many years without finishing. The reason is because they use waterfall. And if one of the things go wrong, one of the missing links has a problem in the links for in the whole chain of events, then it gets stuck. So yes, it's boring, but in order for us to have a better city, better buildings, better infrastructure, we need to learn project management. Then we learn about the lean project management. The lean project management has a very different philosophy. It talks about dieting. So they realize that there's so many projects happening, but waterfall might not satisfy everyone. It's too fat. It has too much weight. So in order to move faster, we need to have the mentality of less, getting leaner, which I'm apparently failing. But the Japanese philosophy is very much about using less to do more. So with lean, they don't focus on the methodology or phases. What they truly focus in is actually how can we make it less people, less time, less money, less manpower. So we've got other people that are invented after lean. They went for Scrum. So Scrum is something that we will talk today. So Scrum is the modern way that a lot of companies are using in software development. So the history of Scrum, let's go to Scrum. Again, you've got to see a lot of Japanese people. I don't know why the Japanese people are like the masters of project management. The name Scrum appears in a paper by management experts Hirotaka Takeuchi and Ikujiro Nonaka called the new product development game. Again, Japanese and English, bad combination. In 1986, they came out with this, the professors and these experts, they came out with a paper where they were researching different ways to make projects for new product development. Remember, at that time in Japan was when the country was going through a lot of advancement in their economic and technological research improvements. So in 1995, then Mr. Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schauber came up with a process that they presented to the UPSLA conference in Austin in the States. So it caught on the attention in the US after that. In 2001 is when the first book on Scrum, Agile Software Development with Scrum is published. Then we have, in 2002, it was so popular that the Scrum Alliance is founded and add a certificate arm to the organization. So now they actually give out certification like TOEFL, IELTS, SAT. In 2006, they created a Scrum Inc., a company actually that teaches and certifies Scrum. It became more and more popular in the software development world that in 2010, finally, they have a Scrum series and Mr. Schwaber no longer is the director of it. So what is Scrum? Scrum is a project management method that focus actually on the speed and on the teamwork more. Lean is about dieting. Less. No waste, no waiting, no inventory, no problem, no motion. That's lean. Try to be as lean as possible, as using less resources as possible. We also learned last time about, apart from lean, we learned about spiral. Spiral focuses on breaking waterfall into really small waterfalls, really small, and making more and more progress closer and closer to the ending result. So Scrum is kind of like spiral in a certain way because it also has a philosophy about breaking a really big project into very small, tiny projects that people can carry out in 1 week or 2 weeks and get the result as fast as possible. So when they get small results, you can go back and review. If something's wrong, you change the method. It allows for a lot of flexibility. And this is what happens in the software world, because the problem is in software development, you cannot wait for 2 or 3 years for people to code and to, develop a software, because the technology has already changed. Apple comes out with a new product twice every year. Even, big guys like Microsoft and Google are always updating their algorithm, their technology. So you can no longer wait for 2 or 3 years until you get a product that you cannot verify whether it will be successful or not. So the same way with our iOS update, our iPhone or Android updates, we will try to find a way to give out really small breadcrumbs and find out how can we launch small improvements. From then on, we will test the market, we will see how people respond to it, we will fix it, and we will go back and keep launching and launching. The same way like in Vietnam, we have Grab. Remember, in the beginning, Grab came out with Grab Taxi. But before they get rid of Grab Taxi, which now I think they have, I don't know, maybe not. I haven't ridden with Grab Taxi for a long time. They came out with Grab Car, and just about 1 year later they came out with Grab Bike, then Grab Food, and during Corona season they came out with Grab Mart. I think they go shopping, grocery shopping for you. So these kind of things were kind of like, they, instead of waiting for the perfect product to come out at the end of 2020, for the past couple of years, they keep launching small and small projects and making it more and more complete. And that is the idea that the modern technological advancement are trying to do, because the speed at which we require these companies and these brands to come out with new innovation is too high, too quickly, too fast. So what is Scrum? Let's go there. Scrum is a short form of the term scrummage, where the game is restarted, where the ball has gone out of a play. It's a game playing with a ball. So Scrum is a software product development strategy that organizes software developers into small teams to reach a common goal, creating a ready for market product. So we talk about market readiness a lot, which means that the product needs to go to the market as fast as possible. If it fails, we change it, we fix it, but it has to go out as fast as possible. It is widely used subset of agile software development. So agile is a really big topic, and so we will not talk about it right now. So according to the Scrum Guide, the definition of Scrum is a framework within which people can address really complex, complicated, difficult problems while productively and creatively developing, delivering products of the highest possible value. So as you can see, we talk about software development a lot. And a lot of these project management ways were born from software, but it's not, this course is not for software developers. This course is for anyone who wants to be able to better accomplish what they do, whether it is their studies, their everyday life, or their work. Whether you work in construction, real estate, development, or you're working in software, the same method actually appears. It's just that most of the people who are inventing these kind of different project management methods come from the technological world, but it's used widely. So these, as you can see, these are the companies that are using Scrum, and not all of them are technological. So yes, Yahoo, Google, and Facebook use Scrum to develop their product, but Adobe is also an IT company, but Bank of America uses Scrum as well. So there are numerous influencers it becomes kind of like a hot and trendy way to carry out projects. So young and hip people like to use Scrum. So they get the best method, best practice, certification strategies and tools. A lot of it has been published out. But why you should use it is what we have to consider. Because Scrum is super lightweight. So if you are a startup company, you only have 5 people, Scrum is perfect for you. Lean is also good, but Lean is usually good for businesses that are a little bit fat. So they need to lean down, sorry. But with Scrum, it's very good for small teams because it's lightweight. It is super simple to understand, I think. But it's super difficult to master. So that is the problem with simple things. Something that looks simple is always going to be difficult to be applied in real life. So Scrum has the power to transform project management across a lot of industries, every business, and even across in life as general. By using Scrum, you will become more agile. You have to, the other day, somebody asked me what keyword they need to use to do more research. I highly recommend that you research the word agile project management, AGILE. So agile manifesto, the agile concept is actually really a big realm. Scrum falls into agile. Lean falls into agile. So agile is kind of like a big group of project management philosophy that is all about the speed, is all about making things faster, more efficient, etc., etc. So research on agile project management. Okay, and by staying focused, collaborating, and communicating, you can accomplish what truly needs to be done and successfully. You know, it's the same thing we talk about in education. When we have a class of 80 people, 60 students, then the quality of the teaching is not very good. The Scrum is the same philosophy. They believe that if the project is too big, if there are too many teams, too many people working on it, the result will be chaotic. Somebody's going to mess up over here, another person creates a fire over there, and the project manager will go crazy trying to control everything. Because of that, they invented the way to make it smaller, more lightweight, and faster. So the most important thing about Scrum is that it's not unproven hype, even though it's become trendy in the young people, young professionals working, in the US and Europe, but it's very solid and successful agile framework that has been applied to a variety of projects and teams. Universities in the US use Scrum to deliver projects to their clients, and militaries have used Scrum to prepare ships for deployment, if there is a word. In the automotive world, Team Wikispeed is using Scrum to build really fast and affordable, efficient consumer car that could sell for less than $20,000. Nowadays, in our 21st century, Scrum is being used very widely for creating new innovation and technological advancement. So why should you use Scrum? Scrum is following a positive effects in practice. First, we try to Sorry, I'm just laughing at a comment. Keep on going. Scrum is following positive effects in practice. It increased productivity. It has better product quality. It reduced or stabilized project cost after introducing agile methods. Higher customer satisfaction, increased satisfaction and motivation of the employees. So the Scrum, as I told you before, it focuses on a lot of teamwork activity, how to make teams more lightweight and working together in a better and more seamless way. Why should you use Scrum? Agile projects are more successful than waterfall projects. Putting it simply, you have more chance or delivering what your customer wants on time. The keyword is faster. Remember, faster, faster. So you have a more chance to deliver what the customer wants on time within a budget if you use agile approach. So with waterfall, there is a lot of the red part where you can see failed projects. Another big proportion of it is challenge, which means that the project has some problems that it needs to overcome. And then successful projects in waterfalls are not many. There are not many of them. Agile, on the other hand, has an amazingly high rate of success rate and very low failure rate, as you can see. So the strength, the Scrum is designed for projects that need parts of the project shipped really quickly. So it means that you have to be able to do what's called an MVP. If you are working or reading a lot about Startup Nation, then you would understand that in startup we have a concept called MVP. If you watch a lot of Shark Tank, then you will see an MVP is called a minimum viable product. And it's a concept that is used in the startup world that you don't need to finish the whole product. If you can just come up with kind of like a prototype, so it's not a complete product, the same way that softwares are always adding new features, but the original software only has certain features that the users might be interested in using. So let's see. Let's say a phone. Our phone in the beginning only has the, calling, texting function. Then we added with the iPhone and with, Palm, BlackBerry, we added emailing functions. And then we have photo, selfie function, taking photos, photography, and then video. And then from video and photo, we add to editing, we add, project management software. So let's see how many project management softwares I have on my phone. Project management software. Okay, I have a total of 9 project management softwares on my phone. So each of them use a different philosophy. Some use Scrum, some use Lean, some use Agile. So it's very powerful in a great way that a project, when it's broken down into different phases, that you give out a very modest prototype of the first part, and then you give it an update, and then another update. So if your project can be done in a certain way, then Scrum is perfect for you, because you can keep selling from the beginning, even before you finish your product or for your idea. So for each site iteration, the designer would test the new feature. So, like Grab. First, they test with us the Grab taxi. Then they try to do Grab car. If it's not successful, they can throw it away. But they did Grab bike, which became super successful. Then they came up with Grab Express, which is basically Grab bike, but instead of traveling, helping travelers who are humans, they try to ship products or shipments, for each iteration. So then we will test the market. We will see how the market reacts to their functionality, and if the market receives it well, and we would like to make a better version of it. So the Netflix team, when they develop Netflix, they also use Scrum, and they want to fail fast, as opposed to launching a really massive redesign that takes a lot of money, a lot of work, a lot of time, but can fail very quickly. So they just launch different parts of the product every day. So it's especially popular in software. The problem is, there is no perfect system. The problem with the Scrum, its weakness is designers who are very upset, because every time they work really hard to make out these new updates. But if it didn't work, then they can get very down, and the morale, the idea, the concept of human resource morale. So people get disappointed, and their next version is not so good. You need some win. So if you keep losing, and losing, then maybe one day you would just want to quit the project. So it affects a lot of the mental health of the team. It's very devastating to see that your project or product is not receiving as much success as you want it to be, even though the last launch might be super successful. But the first and the second is also very important for the team's morale. Secondly, you might also have trouble adjusting your team accustomed to long release cycles. So if you have to do it over and over and over again, you will get really burnt out. And again, Scrum meetings and management overhead is also really complicated. Like I said, it's simple but very difficult to apply. Okay, so let's move on. So this is all you need to do in Scrum. It's very simple. The Scrum idea is the simple rules. There are only 3 roles, 5 events, and 3 artifacts. There's only those things that you need to remember, okay? So you need to remember that in every Scrum team, it's like a game. There is a rule to the game. So Scrum is very gamified. It's very like a game. So Scrums, you have 3 roles. Role number 1 is you are a product owner. You need to remember the product owner is a role where they act on behalf of the customer. I don't care how much you love your team. I don't care how much you want to, create your own idea. You, in that role, in that game, you act as the voice of customer, which means that you need to think from a market perspective. No matter how much you love your product, you have to be ruthless. Secondly, they are the people who provide the vision. What is the vision of the product? They don't even need to be engineers or programmers or coders or technical people. They just need to be the people who have the vision, who have the soul of the product or the project. And 3, they are known stable interface. The second person, this guy is very important, is the Scrum Master. This is kind of like the head of the class. When we go to school, we have head of the class. So the Scrum Master, he is the person who takes care of the process. He doesn't even need to care about the product owner. He doesn't need to care about the product. He only cares about every single week. What do we accomplish? What do we do? And what his job is to do continuous improvement. We learned about this in Lean, in Kaizen, if you remember. Continuous improvement is that you don't do one thing over and over again with the same exact method. Every time you do something again, you have to find a way to improve it. So the Scrum Master is in charge of that. And the third role is just team members. Team members are just people. They know how to do their stuff. They're knowledgeable. They can add value. They can be programmers, designers. They can be engineers. They can be anyone in your team. So these 3 people are going to be fighting each other a lot. So those are the roles. They will have 5 different kind of events. This is how we play this game. The first is that there is one thing we call a sprint. A sprint, like, sprint running really fast, really short time, is a fixed duration. It might be 1 week or 2 weeks. In my old company, we usually do a 2-week sprint. Now in my current company, we do only 1 week. Every week it's a sprint. We try to make everybody in our team run as fast as possible to get the most accomplishment in that week as possible. The biggest sales, marketing, finish up our work, creating more content, and carrying out a lot of lectures and classes, for example. So every sprint is a fixed duration container of events. What happens in that sprint, we have to measure everything. So the second item we want to care is the backlog. There is a backlog, which is a box of all the things we need to do. But a project has a really long list of things you have to do. In order to not go crazy about doing a big project, if you are a new manager, if you just come into your new job and you know that you have a lot of things to accomplish, put everything down, write everything down in a backlog. It's a notebook, it's a list, it's an Excel file, list out everything. Then determine in 1 week or 2 weeks, no matter how long your sprint is going to be, depends on your level of comfort, then think about what can be accomplished in 1 week. Then you pick out the stuff from the Excel file, from your sheet, from your box, and you determine that in this week, we will try to run as fast as possible to accomplish this much things. From then on, we will plan for the sprint. That's when we will plan. Remember last time we learned about PDCA? So we will plan. What do we start with? Before, after, what sequence are we going to put the task into? Who's doing what? Plan all of that. Then every day we do daily scrum. What do we do today? We remind each other. We tell our team, what do we do? What is expected of us? What is that we have to accomplish for one day? And then we will review the sprint after the ending of the sprint to see, oh my God, we were so inefficient this week. What was the reason? There was not enough communication. People were stressed out. Last week, my company had a problem with our sprint because the weather. We are all very sensitive to the weather. So because the weather is changing into a storm, so everybody got sick. Because everybody got sick, so on Monday, we would miss our channel manager. On Tuesday, our channel developer was sick at home. On Thursday, our marketing person was sick. So the communication and the task that requires a lot of collaboration didn't get finished in that week. So that is one of the things that you can review and see. Of course, there's also conflict. If your team member A and team member 2 cannot work well together and it affects the sprint of the whole team, that is something that you need to address. So every sprint, you need to understand that no sprint is going to be similar. We try to make the sprints as efficient as possible, but it's Impossible to do that. You will have great sprints sometimes, great communication, a lot of achievement. That week is just your golden week. But then you will have really crappy sprints sometimes because people are tired, they're exhausted, or they have problems with communication, or there is some problem with the product development or quality, and etc. So you have to review every sprint in order to make the next sprint better. And that's why we try to do Kaizen, which is continuous improvement. So those are 5 things, and we play this game every single week. The 3 artifacts, the 3 evidence, physical evidence, what do you need to have? Number 1, I already talked about it, the backlog. It could be a book, it could be a Microsoft Word file, it could be an Excel file. A product backlog shows the vision of the project and every priority, what do we do first and next. Secondly, we have the sprint backlog, which is we take from the product backlog and we determine what do we do in this week. We need to know exactly what that work is and how much we need to accomplish. And thirdly, we will have product increments. The product increments are the accomplishment after the ending of the sprint. And then we say done. To be honest, I really hope, because this is kind of like a game, I really wish that our education system works like this, where students have to work in teamwork, and every week they have to learn something, they have to have priority, and they have to work on how to play with each other to create this kind of improvement. So, the simple rule of Scrum. Without 3-5-3, you are not doing Scrum. So the roles, to repeat, the product owner is accountable for the work the team is supposed to be completed. So he is the king of the project. Whether they do much of that work themselves or they let other people do it. The product owner is responsible. He will be fired if you guys fail as a team member. So the product owner is always one person, never a committee, which is really weird that in our country, we have a lot of committees. The government, they always create a committee. The reason why in Scrum, they don't have a committee, but they actually have one product owner is the decision-making process. We want to make sure that if you have a really horrible product owner, yeah, your team will fail. But again, if you have an okay product owner, it will be okay. If you have a great product owner, it will be great. But if you put an okay, a horrible, and a great product owner together, 3 of them in a committee, yeah, a lot of times you will still have really crappy projects. So you want to make sure that there's only one king who is in charge, a true leader. Okay, so what they do is they will manage what is done. They will release management, so they will release out when is the product ready to go to the market. They will have to go and take all the crap from the stakeholders, shareholders, they have to talk to the government, they have to talk to the CEO, they get yelled at, so the team doesn't get yelled at. And lastly, they work with the Scrum team. So they are kind of like your leader. They take all the difficult tasks, but they don't do the real job themselves. So this is what they do. Then you have the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is the resident facilitator. He is kind of like the most powerful person apart from the project owner. The product owner or project owner, he sits above the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master, so if you think about like class, so if your children go to like elementary school, you would have the teacher. The teacher is the product owner. The Scrum Master is the student who becomes the head of the class. They help the teacher manage their friends. So the Scrum Master is a part of the team, but he is a facilitator. He's not a true leader in the title, but he has a responsibility to support the whole team. They help the whole team to follow the rules, the theories, and the practice. So they are kind of like, anything the head of the class does, the Scrum Master does. They make sure there's no conflict. They make sure to communicate between the team and the owner. They monitor the team, yada, yada, yada. So the process of doing that is through moderation. So they have to, look at everybody doing whatever they're doing. And if they have problems, they come in, they jump in, and they intervene. Second, they do a lot of coaching. They teach people what the mentality for project management, how to do Scrum, what is the right thing to do at that moment, how to think, how to do critical thinking. They help with everything. And lastly, they develop the know-how for the team. So the characteristic, if you want to have a career as a Scrum leader, so the team members share the same norms and rules, and the Scrum team as a whole is accountable for the delivery of the Scrum. The Scrum team is empowered. It is working as autonomous as possible. The Scrum team is self-organizing, and the skills within the Scrum team are balanced. That is a characteristic of the Scrum team. So it's great teamwork. Everybody is efficient. They love each other. They communicate really well, yada, yada, yada. Usually the size of the Scrum team is very small. You don't want to have a group of more than, 10 people. So 7 people or 8 people is a good number to start with. So a sprint is a specific time period where a Scrum team produces a product. So it's kind of like a spiral. So this week it determines, let's think, for example, you are developing the new iPhone. So your Scrum might be the first Scrum, the product backlog. After you plan, you say that the iPhone will have these features. Number 1, really call and texting. Number 2, photos and videos. Number 3, iCloud. Number 4, games. Number 5, music. So you have 5 things in your backlog. Then every week you will say, okay, this week, now it's Monday, let's determine what you want to do. So you think to yourself, you have a Scrum meeting, and you think to yourself that a phone, its fundamental function should be calling and texting. So you say, I prioritize calling and texting. Let's accomplish all the programming for this phone, build the phone, build the screen, build the everything for 1 week. So your whole team jumps into that and start planning. Okay, what do we need to do in order to get the calling and the texting function done? In terms of technical, in terms of design, in terms of hardware, software, blah, blah. After you plan for it, you carry out the sprint. 2 weeks pass, everybody's working really hard, and we come back together and we review what has been done. So we got a phone that can call in and can text, but the experience is not very well. The design is kind of bad. So you realize that there are issues to be improved, and you will ask yourself, how do you improve in the next Scrum? So every day you go through the same Scrum. You have to think about in 15 minutes, this is a game, So every day the Scrum team will have to meet for 15 minutes. They just need to ask each other, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm doing this. How does it fit together? And then the next day, the same thing happened again, where they say, yesterday I accomplished this, so now I can give you the output to do what you are supposed to do, blah, blah, blah. So those are the event. So the sprint is when we update the backlog, we plan it, we do everyday sprint meetings. Then after 1 or 2 weeks, depending on your sprint, of course you can do a 1-month sprint, but it takes a long time and I don't like those. You will review the sprint, what has been accomplished. You finish your potential product, you release it to the market, and you plan the next sprint. As I said before, it's super simple. But it's completely difficult to integrate. The reason is because humans are not disciplined. We don't like to follow the same method every day. Try to make your whole company come to work in time every day and have a meeting for 15 minutes every day. I swear to you, one day somebody will be sick, somebody forgets, somebody gets late, things like that. It's very difficult to keep people organized and disciplined for this. So in this process, we will make the sprints better and better. I'm not going into the detail of the process because it's kind of boring, and you gotta do it in order to know it. So as you can see, the sprint backlog is what we call a Kanban. So this is the project management that was invented by Toyota, where they created these kind of cards where they can just make a really big item like designing the new iPhone into very small project, into tasks. After you break down the task, you will pick from the backlog. Today, I will start doing only this one task. After you're done, you're allowed to take the new card. We also have another problem as professionals and workers. We try to do many things at one time. And because of that, nothing gets accomplished. And we have to combat this by being more efficient and try harder to manage our team so they can collaborate and they can have a discipline while working together in project teams. So an increment, as you can see, is the more backlog you finish, the more your product will look good. So I am going to pass through that. Let's go to an example. Let's do a wedding planning. I think I will need to do that one day in a far, far future. So we have a product backlog. This is the things that you need for your wedding. Number one, if you're religious, if you're Catholic, if you're Christian, you will need a church. If you're Vietnamese, you need a room. So yeah, easier for us Vietnamese to get married. Secondly, you will need a photographer. Then you will need a lot of flowers. You need a suit for the groom, and you need a wedding dress for the bride. You need 2 rings, restaurant, music, and gifts. That's it. This is how you want to organize your wedding. Product owner is fiance. So for example, in Vietnam, I think that the bride, everywhere, the bride is the true king. They want their wedding to be this way. They are prepared for that. And so for them, they are the person responsible for what they want. The scrum master is usually the groom, the guy. He's always, running around, carrying out jobs and being bossed around by the bride. Okay. And the scrum team is the fathers, mothers, friends, all the people around who are helping to organize this wedding. So as a fiance, I want my wedding so that people can, so beautiful and the dress is so gorgeous and everyone stays a long time with the open mouth. So with that, the criteria for the wedding dress is, it has to cost less than $2,000. It has to be white. It has to be short sleeved. It had to be strapless neckline. Blah, 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 whatever the bride wants. And as a couple, I want the food to be so spectacular so that all the people who are invited leave satisfied. They love the food. They have a good time. They had a good party. So acceptance criteria, I will only accept this wedding if it has canopies, canapé, starter, first course, second course, desserts, coffee, shots, and drinks. The wine has to be from Sicily in Italy in the year 2013. They have a lot of requirements. This bride is very picky. So once the product backlog was put in like that, we realized we prioritize. So the first thing we need to do is having a church. As long as you have a church, even if you have really horrible food or you have, not a very nice dress, the wedding can still go on. But if you don't have a church, everything else will be wasted. So we need to have a church. Then we need to have restaurants, because then we will have no dinner without food. After that, then you will have a wedding dress, or else the bride can wear, jeans or, show up naked. Then you have a groom suit. So as you can see, the priority here is the groom is always below the bride. Then we've got photographer, flowers, ring, music, and gifts. So after we have put the backlog in, now it's a responsibility for the whole team, the scrum master, so the husband or the boyfriend, and even the product owner, which is the girlfriend or the groom or the bride, so that they can kind of like estimate, prioritize, and make sure that the product backlog is perfect. Then we already ready to start working on it. So we decided to do a 3-week sprint. So we need to organize our wedding in 3 weeks. We did a small sprint planning in which we are checking what events, what tasks we need to do. And the time we had during this period of time is to be able to accomplish everything we need. After we planned the whole time, we retrospective. We tried to, once the sprint was over, we will look back into these 3 weeks and we saw how everything has gone, what has been completed, what was not, what was late, what pending tasks do we need to do. So day one, during the sprint planning, Alex presents a Scrum product backlog with items from the highest to the lowest priority. So after discussing, we will try to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever task we do, and we will commit to what we promise to accomplish. So in the morning, the whole team sits together and everyone gives a short statement of what has been achieved so far. So the groom will say, I have talked to the church and now I have 3 options. You have to choose. The bride will say, I went to see the wedding dresses and I think I have 5 of them that I like. And then the mother will say, we have prepared for the money. You guys now can spend it to organize your wedding, blah, blah. And we can say the problems. The groom can say, on the day that we want to have the wedding, the weather forecast says that it's going to be rainy. So do we fix it? Do we change it or not? On the day 2, in the morning again, they meet again and then they start talking. So there's some problem and the team needs some questions. They ask Alex, the Scrum product owner. And things like that happening, and then in the day 28, we want to make sure that everybody is sitting there in the wedding where the dress is perfect and the bride already wears it. The church is in a good place, and people show up, the food is nice, there's music, everybody has fun, and your wedding is complete. So the idea here is everything could be done in a crazy headless chicken. So, if you have a team of headless chicken people, which means that, it's a very brutal example, but if you kill the chicken and cut its head, then the body will still run around without any direction. So we cannot have teams working like headless chicken and everybody thinking of a project and understanding it in a different way. What we need is that we need to make these games, whether it's a lean project management, waterfall, Scrum, Scrumban, Spiral, all of these different methods. They are just a way so that people can play the same game. It's kind of like rock, scissors, paper. If your game is requested that people, 1, 2, 3, and the paper is bigger than the rock, then everybody has to agree on the same thing, or else we can never determine who's winning and who's losing. The same way is applied with project management. We need to understand that we need to have a common rules, common grounds. Everybody's on the same page about how do we want to proceed with a project? How do we want to carry out the project? Do we focus on waste, like lean? Do we focus on process, like spiral? Do we focus on planning and executing, always going forward, like waterfall? Or do we focusing on releasing new product every day, like Scrum? Then it depends on the priority of the project, what you like to do, what is the characteristic of your team, how big your team is, how big your project is. Then you would determine the rules. After you have gone through, problems in projects, which you will, I'm sure all of you who are watching, one day will have problems with time management. One day you will become managers. One day you'll become deputies. One day maybe you become a CEO if you're not already a CEO. And in that day, you will realize that methodology, logic, and project management is going to be your best friend in managing your company, your project, your corporation, and your team, and even your own life. And with that, I want to end today's session. I have time for questions and answers before we say goodbye. I know that this topic is super, super dry, and I have to tell you, even though I am teaching it, when I was learning it, getting certification and going to study, my biggest question, maybe like your question right now, is, what the hell is this? Why should I care? And I agree. But I don't feel bad about it, because you will care about it. One day, when you have to manage really large project, and when you feel like you don't have enough time, budget, or people, that's when you will definitely find the benefit of project management methods. And let me tell you, there are, dozens, 20, 30 different kinds of project management, in hundreds ways people manage projects. The ones that I'm introducing you here, because we have limited time, again, it's a project. So there's only a limited time that we can have to introduce different topics. One of these topics is Scrum, Lean, Spiral, Waterfall, Agile. Those are the types. Six Sigma, Each of them will have a different mindset, different mentality, a different way of playing, different rules and regulation, and most important, different philosophy. If you one day are in a situation where you feel like your life is out of control, the amount of workload you have is too much, and you are overwhelmed with everything, and or you know that some project has to be successful or else everybody will die or you go bankrupt, like the corona situation. How do we control? How do we develop the vaccine? How do we make sure that our hospitals are going to be okay? How do we control quarantine and make sure everybody's healthy? How do we control the spread of the virus? That is a project that has criteria, time limit, deadline, and if we don't do something, people will die. So because of that, we need to have methodology, team, philosophy, and the way to do it professionally, instead of relying on our everyday inspiration. You don't want to be inspired to do something today. You want the whole team to know exactly what to do, in what priority, and to receive the best results. So with that, I want to end our course on project management. If you would like to have some questions, leave them under the video and I'll try to get back to it as possible. In the meantime, please remember to subscribe to the US Embassy Facebook page, where we will carry out different kind of information and different kind of education programs, where you can take a break from traditional Vietnamese classes, and we can learn the topics that is a little bit more innovative and unfamiliar, and maybe it will be interesting to you. So thank you guys for sticking with me for so long, and I hope to see you guys, hopefully in a day soon in new courses, and most importantly, in person, when we can finally go out and feel safe about our health. Stay indoor, wear a mask, clean your hands. Goodbye. Thank you, Dan. I've seen you in every session. I'm very proud. Thank you. I am still here if anybody has a question.